All right, everybody, welcome to Pass the Mic for Friday, April 7th, episode 66. We are on Zoom. Mike Pehote here. Joining me, Mr. Michael Gervasi.
Because I can jam like Teddy if you let me, a good fella, but still rugged like Joe Pesci.
Oh, man. This is going to be a little older, I'm going to guess, right?
Yeah, Joe Pesci.
Well, I mean, he's still around.
Well, okay.
Tupac.
No, Ash, any idea? We'll introduce you in a second, but.
Oh, man.
See,
so familiar. I need a beat
hard
to help me out. Yeah.
I know. I got to get the flow right. But all right. So you give up?
Yeah, I do.
So
I need a beat to drop, and then I can.
EPMD song Headbanger. It's Redman's part in the song. So song Headbanger.
I never gotten that.
No, man.
Honestly,
I'm people up lately.
I definitely never would have gotten that. Those of you that are watching can see, but now that are listening can see we have a special guest this week. We're back with a guest. Dr. Ashley Terry is joining us, a fellow Eagle, right? Well, now that we always loved when we bring in an Eastern Eagle into the group, a great school up there in Ypsilanti that we have plenty of degrees from. I'm just going to turn it right over to Ashley so he can introduce himself a little bit to the Pass the Mic audience, and then we'll do our stock questions. And I think he has a mic of the week for us as well.
Excellent. Yeah, you know what? First and foremost, I appreciate you both for having me on. Again, I'm Dr. Terry. I have worked in the higher education space over 15 years now. And so I have a specialty in retention and persistence, a ton of years of experiences with building mentorship programs, as well as management mentorship programs, Schoolcraft, as well as U of M. Currently, as a deputy director for the Detroit College Access Network, where we partner with a ton of organizations as well as higher eds to figure out resources and different support systems to ensure that all students have access to college and importantly, make it a reality. And so it's work that I continue to have a passion for. And so I know you'll learn a lot about what I do in just a few moments.
Yeah, excellent. We're going to do our stock questions that we have with all of our guests. Excuse me, the dog. I must see somebody in the back. Our stock questions. Birthday dinner. You can go out to eat anywhere you want, or a home cooked meal. What is your go-to birthday meal?
My go-to birthday meal would probably it's a steak, man. It's a nice ribeye. It's a Caesar salad. It's a loaded baked potato, right? And maybe a Manhattan to wash it down with.
Nice. Now,
Right.
are you going out to eat for this, or is this a home cooked meal if you had it anyway?
I'm going out to eat. Like I'm a stickler for just time and energy, right? And so if I can go at a nice restaurant and get some, a good ambiance, with some your relatives or some friends, and that's what we'll do.
Perfect.
Where you going?
Perfect.
Oh man.
Yeah, if you had a place you could go, no money's no object. What steak are you going with, or a place that you like to go?
Probably say Eddie Merlot. Like hands down, they have the best brown sugar ribeye I've ever had. Yeah, and so it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Brown sugar on anything works.
Sounds
hands
delicious.
down.
Nice. All right, Mike, your question.
Yeah, so you could have this brown sugar ribeye with one person, alive or dead. Who you eating with?
I would, I would have to say my grandmother, who passed in 2002, and so she would be in awe, right? At just how the family's doing overall, right? And she was a huge inspiration for all of us, including myself. She is really one of the main reasons of why I do, what I do and why I do it. And she is the one who's really taught me how to love and has taught me how to forgive, right? And so it'll definitely be with her and her only.
So let me jump in here for a second. Like, I've known the Terry family. Ashley's older brother Antoine and I have known each other since 6th grade. Antoine's a regular listener. So I've known them. They are the absolute nicest family ever. I don't know if I ever met your grandmother, but in terms of like just everybody in your family, these are the nicest people you ever meet. So it's such an honor to have you here.
That means a lot, Gio. It really does. And you know, we go way back, and I'm sure you've seen my grandmother at the basketball games,
that was my
right? And
thinking.
so she's probably the only lady, you know, rocking purple hair, right? And so yeah, and so she was awesome, and always enjoy seeing you guys hoop. So
Yeah,
excellent. I appreciate you sharing that.
yeah.
And again, and Ashley does a great job of continuing the tradition of most of our guests pick a family member, which I think is really nice. It's never like some celebrity, you know. It's always a nice touch.
Yeah.
Do you have a mic of the week for us?
I do. The mic of the week is Michael J. Fox. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Back to the Futures, right? So every time it comes on TV, I'm locked in. And the wife is a fan of it too. So that's my mic of the week.
What about the old Family Ties? Do you ever watch any of that stuff? The old stuff?
I do.
Okay. All right.
I do.
Alex P. Keaton. I see. Was Tom Hanks's uncle? Was he the drunk uncle? Wasn't there like an uncle that was like a special episode? I'm trying to remember who it was. I might have to look that up. There's like a special episode where that was the whole premise of the episode. His uncle was a bad alcoholic or something. I may be wrong with Tom Hanks. The Ren Dog will.
I'm sure he'll get us. Yeah, for sure.
All right. With that, we got a little feedback from last week. Of course, last week we talked about the flexibility, the inevitable book, and the flexibility in education. Sarah Morgan, who I graduated with, talked about her daughter on our page. This is something we talked about last week of how COVID brought about all this flexibility now at the high school level of what used to be. And Max Bailey, I did say 6 days a week, 6 hours a day. We are not working 6 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. Pre-COVID, that was the norm for 98% of kids.
Yeah.
You know, and then we switched over and we have much more flexibility. It's just basically, it's not just a senior thing. It's not just an advanced placement thing. And her daughter, I think, is a freshman and saying how she loves the flexibility that's available to kids nowadays. Did you hear anything back on that, Mike?
I didn't get much back on that except for what you saw with the text. What I got back, it was interesting, it was all today, and it was almost like back to back. So Evie Crampton, a two-time guest of our show, came to me and was very disappointed in that I said the entire state of Florida is overrated.
Oh,
and no joke, right after Nash, you know the people involved here. Deontay sends me a text. He's a regular listener. He's like, couldn't agree with you more about Florida being overrated and love New York. And then Antoine seems to agree. So it was like all that came at once.
And we've really ticked Evie off because I told her Myrtle Beach was overrated and she loves Myrtle Beach, and now you've ticked her off with Florida. She may be a two-time and done guest. Yeah. Everyone's back. The travelers are all back. Tom Pack did another great photo collage.
Oh my God,
he's just doing a great job. I mean, I'm sorry, Rocco, you're gone. Like, I don't know what it is, but he does a great job. And then I'm going to tie in some of this Florida stuff back again, I think, later with my hot mic take. So that's it. So good recap. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Education topic. We're going to tie into Ashley Terry's expertise in the world of college and higher education, and trying to, I think, get more people into higher education, spreading that. I was just talking to my buddy Angelo, who was in town, and he was my daughter, of course, is at U of M. We've mentioned his son is starting to look at colleges, and he started asking, again, people ask me the finances of it, right? Because again, it's the elephant in the room. College is not cheap. And I explained to him, and I'm going to botch the numbers, I think, but U of M has sort of like a newer program where if the family's adjustable growth income is like 65 or less, it's like a promised tuition's paid for, basically. And I don't
Go Blue
qualify
guarantee.
Yeah, the Go Blue guarantee. We don't qualify for that, but I went on to say, and I know this is going to shock half of the American society because some people are so selfish. I said, I'm happy. I don't qualify for it, but I'm happy that's there because it's needed. And, just to get the idea and so we can talk about some of these things that are out there because, we're starting to see a decrease in numbers of people going to beyond high school to secondary level in college. So why don't you, we'll, instead of me rambling on about it, we'll let our expert talk a little bit about what he does and maybe what he sees going forward in the future, and then we can chime in with some of our input as prospective college parents here pretty soon.
Nah, that's a great segue, right? And so we all know post-secondary education is taking a hit, right? And so for so many reasons. Even we can look back at the numbers, I'll say pre-COVID, even the enrollment percentages were extremely low, right? And so nowadays it's not like how we were, as high school students, because it was always, the question was never, are you going to college? Right? It was, where are you going? Right.
Yeah.
And so that was like a part of that college culture. It didn't matter like if you were an athlete or if you were, a regular student. That was always the question. It was, well, where are you going? Because you didn't want to be left out. Right. And so as a kid or like as a teenager, that meant a lot, right?
Yeah.
It really did. And so you didn't want to be left out of that conversation of, of not like of being home that following fall. And I think as the world has kind of evolved, it's more innovative and things are like are easily accessible. Students have lost interest, right? But aside of that, there are so many, I would say, layers, right, that goes into students being more interested in a post-secondary pathway, right? Even so much so now, when we talk about um, college counselors, right? The state average from college counselor to student ratio is 671 to 1.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. And so that's alarming. Okay. And
Ooh.
guidance counselors, they're the pulse, right? With gathering all of this information such as the Go Blue Guarantee, right? The Wayne State Guarantee, the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, FAFSA information, right? But if they're so swamped with just trying to get a handle, on their students, it takes away how this information is conveyed, because now it seems like it's a chore as opposed to giving insightful information in an empathetic way to help students and families get a hold of this information to help guide them to a post-secondary pathway.
That's insane. That is a crazy number. I guess it makes sense. Although our numbers would be better at our school, but that's crazy. I want to kind of ask you, what inspired you to go to this direction?
Great question. Because honestly, it's a layered question, right? I'm also a first gen, right? And if you ask anybody in my family, right, they probably would have never thought that I would have gone through the level of education and the level of, of career involvement that I am today, right? And a lot of it is because there aren't a lot of Black men like myself that I never knew of growing up who inspired to get at this level, right? Also, from a generational standpoint, I wanted to provide a different pulse, right, within my family. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So I wanted people to know that through education, there are so many other doors that can be open, right? There's so much opportunity that is available once you attain a degree. And so I knew that, at this point, um, well, I'll kind of back up for a second. I also fathered a child, right? When I was in high school. And so when my oldest son was born, that was like the thing, right? And I remember having a conversation. I'll never. This is a thought that I have every single day. I remember coming home. It was the summer going into my junior year, and I remember um, walking into the apartment, and I told everybody to come downstairs, including Antoine, right, including Twine, my little brother, my mom, and my dad, right. And I didn't know any way how to tell them, but I'm like, I looked at my parents. I said, "You guys are about to be grandparents," and I looked at Antoine and AD. You guys are about to be uncles, right? Right. And so the very first thing my dad said was, "You're going to be just like me." Right. And so my dad, like, he was this hooper, right? And Antoine was born when he was 15. And so my dad like dropped out of high school. And that was like his immediate thought. And so from that point, from that moment, I said, I'm not going to be like him, not in a negative way, right? But I didn't want that to be my story or my journey.
That's thank you for sharing that. That's pretty deep, man. Mike, can I follow up with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's interesting too. I just want to add this little anecdote. My dad was an immigrant, and so for him, college is like such it almost still is, but such a foreign concept. He got a job in the factory, did well, UAW, and did very well, and but for him, it was like college wasn't a thing. I heard it from my mom, but I don't know if it was more or less like maybe she didn't know what else was there, so that was the easy path because that's what people are saying. But for me, you're right, it was like peer pressure. Like all my friends, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious though regarding your story, and that's a heck of a. I had never heard that. That's crazy. Like what with regard to what you've done, how do you like keep up with the kids? Are you able to still reach out and find out how they're doing? What successes, what failures, what challenges do you run into? Like kind of getting to all that. I'd be curious.
Yeah, great question. Well, I wasn't, going into Eastern Michigan, right? I wasn't really strong academically, right? And so I'm not sure if you guys know, but I ran 4 years track there, right? And so I went there on a track scholarship, right? And so, but I really wasn't strong academically, and a lot of honestly my mishaps came within the first couple of years as a college student. And when you think about just not being, I guess, college ready in terms of understanding what soft skills were and understanding what my interests were in terms of what I wanted to get into from a career standpoint, I didn't really understand that. I think initially my first couple of years, I was a phys ed major, right? My high school coach, was my gym teacher, and I always thought it was the coolest job on the planet. You know what I mean? And so just kind of roll the balls out and just and go hoop. You know what I mean? And so, but not really understanding, the difficulty, right, of that program. There's a lot of anatomy and physiology, and just like a lot of courses that didn't excite me, right? And so that was honestly, a huge downfall, only because I spent, a lot of years. I was about 5.5 years before I earned a bachelor degree, right? And so, and not also, within that mode, not having good study habits, right? And so I think a lot of students don't understand how they learn, okay, until they get more mature, which is usually like their third and fourth year. You know what I mean? And so My graduate school, honestly, I was able to use a lot of my work experiences, right? I had worked a lot of years of admissions. At that point, I had understood just what my niches were, like in terms of helping students as well as families understand what their needs, goals, and values were in terms of education, right? Finding the right fit for them, right? Because I think that's more than half the battle. Because if we look at the transfer rate, right, after that first year, there's a lot of students that are transferring out of college after that first year, and so that really having a greater understanding of the resources that are in colleges and universities, and how those ultimately affect the retention and persistence for students, right? How are those resources and support systems being used? How are they explained? How are they promoted, right? In terms of marketing and just all those different things. My undergraduate, I didn't understand where any of that stuff was. And I was an athlete, right? Because everything was filtered through just student support services, which is in Bowen Fieldhouse, right? And so, but yeah, but the average student, they don't know like where these different support systems are. And I think that once students are really able to understand the entire landscape of why they are students at this institution and where do I find help and whom to ask, that's more than half the battle.
Absolutely.
That's a great point, and something that I try to tell the kids that I work with before they leave. Because a lot, the big knock on college and is one of the things is cost. But the thing about the cost is, I tell these kids as they're going on, I'm like, there's a ton of stuff that you're paying for, or your parents are paying for, or you're taking loans out, or a combination of three. In reality, their services are there, but you have to go find them and use them. That's what I always tell them all the time. And when I was first gen as well, it was just sort of expected in my house. My dad, he was an aircraft mechanic. When I mentioned going to the aircraft maintenance school, he said absolutely not. But I think like every parent, no matter what, whatever, like I told my daughter already at U of M, you're not going to the College of Education. Just stay away from there. But I got to Eastern, and thankfully I got into the honors program, and they sort of showed you a lot of the stuff they had, and I sort of, okay, I'm going to go to academic advising. I'm going to go to these office hours instead of just crossing it off on a syllabus of these are the office hours. I'd go to the office hours and talk to instructors if I was having a hard time, and it was extremely helpful. Not even if I wasn't struggling. And that way, you don't sort of fall, because if you don't take advantage of these resources or tutoring situations, you'll fall through the cracks. I try to tell the kids, they're there, they will help you. But unlike high school, where sometimes we come over your shoulder and say, oh, hey, what's wrong? If you go seek it out, they will help you. There's support and help there, but it's not as much them coming to find you, and that's
Yeah,
that's a huge change from high school to college that I don't think it gets touched on quite enough. I mean,
yeah,
sure, in a quick orientation, they say we offer this and this, and that's great. Then all of a sudden you move in, you don't remember what this and this was. I mean, I
exactly.
guess,
No, and those are great points, right? Excellent points. And I would take a deeper dive and say, what if that student is insecure,
yeah,
right?
yes,
What if that student, has insecurities, right? About asking questions. What if that's,
yeah,
if they're shy and oftentimes when there are students who are kind of like not as strong academically, um, they have a lot of challenges with because it's intimidating, right?
yeah,
And that kind of takes
exactly,
my point where making sure you find the right institution that is for you, right?
yes,
And so college in general, like it could be a daunting experience if you aren't prepared for it. We can say all day long, like, what students, what they should be doing and how, and so on and so forth. But those best practices on how to prep students to be a college student should in my opinion, should start in middle school, right? That's where that prep, that college prep guidance should be introduced, because then it become routine for sure.
I'm not gonna lie. When I had like the small, I was an English major. The smaller like English composition class, we had 25 people. Those were easy because you could talk. They knew who you were. But I started the first, and I wasn't like an anxious, insecure person. But that first time I went to like a office hour for like a 300-person class, I was nervous, like walking in,
Yeah,
because like this person, I mean, they had no clue who I was. Is he going to think this? I was very nervous, and I wasn't in. I could only imagine somebody that is just anxious in general. You're right; it's a very hard thing to do, but we have to teach the kids that going there
yeah,
is the best thing in the world. I told my daughter that right away. I'm like, do not be scared. They're not. They actually probably want people to come to these, and most people don't. And if you do go, you'll end up doing better. It's never going to be a bad situation, I guess is the way I put it. So
yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
I think the
absolutely.
other thing too that I think is important that you're doing, like you mentioned, you wanting to be a gym teacher, right? And
Yeah,
or phys ed,
yeah,
because a lot of times that's all kids are exposed to is this
yeah,
small little minute whatever professions or whatever they really don't get big picture. I try to stress, my economics class, we do a career unit, and I try to expose them to as much as possible. Like look into these careers, take your time, because there's so much out there. But if you're only given this narrow picture, you don't even know, like, you don't even know to go to for help, let alone
yeah.
the type of stuff that's out there for you. So that's the daunting task. And man, I applaud you. I think that's great. I know it's got to be overwhelming for all
Yeah,
involved.
you know what? I appreciate that, Mike. And one of the things that I used to do when I oversaw a pre-college and college program at U of M, as well as schoolcraft. And so one of the things that I used to do with my high school students as freshmen, I had them take self-assessments, right? Because I believe that once students were able to identify what their interests were, they're able to kind of grab from different things and creates kind of like this illusion of how they envision themselves in their career, right? And so once that assessment is done, then they start to identify, coursework, right? And before they're like as a junior, they already know exactly what they want to study. You know what I mean? And so and it helps so much that now when those students are transitioning in that post-secondary school, they're done 3.5, 4 years,
Mhm.
right? Because they've done the work on the back end. And I think that again, a lot of institutions, a lot of high schools don't help students to try to identify what their interests are from a career standpoint, so they're able to go and decide on an area of study in a minor, so they can pick a major more swiftly and start taking those courses after gen eds.
Okay. That's hey man, that's all the education people that listen. That's a challenge for all of us. I think that's a well put and well said.
you mentioned what you do in your economics lesson. I think that it would nowadays, especially with there being so many multiple new fields, that used to be a normal thing. The old career days.
Yeah,
He's and it sounds sort of goofy, but I think it would be a good thing to sort of bring back. I mean, my wife went to Eastern, has an accounting degree, and she works for the Michigan Gaming Control Board now. When she was going through
excellent.
college, when she was in high school, casinos weren't even a thing downtown. Like you never even would have
Yeah,
thought of like I'm gonna one day be an auditor down, audit, so and again, you're right. A lot of times the kids are only gonna know what they have at home
hmm,
and who they see at work, and then maybe some things on TVs or movie, like doctors on TV. I mean, the big ones that have been around forever. But there's a lot of things that people don't know about. Like I never would have thought of,
yeah,
getting an accounting degree, and then one day going and working the books for the game and control board. Something and that's just one of many, and those jobs just keep
yeah.
multiplying nowadays. So
No, I agree with you, and I think it again, like if students were able to identify what their interests are, they're able to pinpoint or even ask more questions when they have conversations convos with college reps, right? If you think about college reps or like in admissions, they have conversations just thinking about students and families as another number, right? And not really understanding what it is exactly that this student is looking for. And that takes it back to understanding needs, goals, and values. You know what I mean? And so I think if institutions can have or can present information about the different programs without feeling like, okay, well, I'm gonna just tell them, what's going on, and that's that,
Tell
right?
them what they want to hear.
Yeah, and that's a big difference, especially in this era of student, right? And that is so very important. How is the information being presented? Is it just a check off the box, or is it really intentionality behind it, right? And I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, excellent. And we could probably talk for hours on this. You've been a great. I mean, I'm so happy you were here to talk about this, because this is something that's like above our heads, obviously, but something we deal with day to day.
Yeah, right.
Both as teachers, but also as parents. I had this discussion with my daughter when she was picking a school. She's in the process now of locking in her major and picking classes for her sophomore year. And then my son, has dreams of being a rich orthodontist, but does he really want to do all the science and stuff? I think he just wants to be rich. I don't think he wants to really start working in people's mouths. So, I can't thank you enough for your wisdom on the topic, and I hope we help some listeners out with this, and because it's important. I think Mike and I have talked about this in the last 6-7 years. College has sort of gotten a little bit of negative backlash, and I think we see people that, and again, I have no problem with the trades. My dad was in the trades. I drove a truck for a pipe fitting shop when I was in college. I worked with plumbers and pipe fitters who were trying to tell me, they call me college boy all the time. But they would always tell me, they're like, don't drop out of college. They'd be like, don't, these checks are big. I would always remember, like, these checks are big. He goes, but we are beat down, sore, and tired. There's pros and cons to every profession. And they say, college boy, don't quit. And I think that, but people still need to realize is there's a huge demand for many college programs, and we just need them, and us in the education field. I mean, we're in trouble. We're in trouble of what's coming up next, and there's got to be people going, like, and so it's not, an advanced college degrees. Don't believe the negative hype, I guess, that's out there lately. Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I completely I agree with you. It's definitely needed, and I think like it's kind of twofold, because I think our government, they have thrown like like millions of dollars so students can have like an out of pocket experience or an out of pocket cost when they get to college, right? And so that's why they're really, I guess, hell bent on FAFSA, because we know that FAFSA, I think there's a stat that's like over 90% of students or families who complete the FAFSA, they go to college, right? Yeah. Which is true. But the problem is that there's not enough students who are completing the FAFSA. Right?
Yes, yep.
Right. And so, which is causing the enrollment to be low, right? But the second fold of that is students aren't interested, right? And that comes from the House bill that I think it's House Bill number 4156, where there's a mandate to reduce the student to counselor ratio to 450 to 1, right? Even that's still low. Then that, the national average should be 250 to 1.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that student counselor piece is extremely crucial, because they are the ones who have the ability to inspire and motivate their kids.
Yeah. And I want to give a big shout out to our three, Miss Trush, Miss Palazzolo, and Miss Kelly Walters. Kelly Walters with my own kids. They do a great job, and that's 3 for about 1,100 kids. but they very thankful for them. So again, great job. We appreciate a great topic. If any listeners have any questions, maybe we could even pass them on to Dr. Terry. Because if we can't answer them, he might be able to definitely help you out. There's lots of stuff out there. We mentioned the Wayne State promise, the U of M promise. It used to be like, oh, I could never afford to go to U of M, or I could never afford this. Things are becoming more and more affordable depending on your family situation. So fill out the FAFSA so you can see it. You have to fill that. You don't just show up and say, I have this. So, all right, moving on.
I appreciate you both.
Yeah, no problem. Moving on, it's time for overrated, underrated. Going from something so serious as college education to something so not serious.
Segue, yeah.
And your buddies are going to love this, Mike. It is school lunch, overrated, underrated. I was just eating my dinner here, complaining about how not good our school lunch was. Full disclosure, my mom was a school lunch lady in the Gibraltar schools while I was growing up, so I have no.
Excellent.
I might be a little biased, but that was the pre-Michelle Obama days. There might be some. Back in the days we could get a fountain Coke and deep fried chicken tenders and fries for lunch, but those days are no longer with us. So for the better, I think we need to, although I don't understand how chocolate milk is still a drink with lunch, but all right, overrated school lunch. We'll go with our guest first. So going back to the day, or, what do you have for overrated for school lunch, Ashley?
School lunch is underrated.
The whole idea of lunch is underrated. School lunch.
Yeah.
Oh,
I enjoyed Nacho Day on Wednesdays, right? Right, and Pizza Day on Fridays. So it's not talked about enough.
There. All right, Mike, do you got something overrated for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna go overrated. This is my old Kennedy pals are gonna probably disagree, but the Mexican pizza, we called it Fiestada. And
was it like the octagon? It sort of looked like a hexagon, or like with like the yellowish cheese.
Yes,
Fiestadas. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, you took me back.
You said those, so those are overrated?
Overrated, yes.
Oh, because your friends still talk about it, and it's not good.
Yeah, everybody got. I didn't see the big deal about it. So I'm saying that's overrated.
All right, my overrated. It's similar. It's another pizza route. Was the bagel pizza. That was a thing that they had. You know what I'm talking about? They'd be baked.
I do.
People. The thing about working in public schools is all of our friends, and my friends are the same. They always used to ask about school lunches. Like we miss these chocolate chip cookies. We miss this. We miss this. And one of the things they'd always bring up would be the bagel pizza. And I'm like, those were not that great. Again, overrated. Not a fan. I sort of hinted at it too. Like the whole idea too of milk being the main beverage with school lunch. It grosses me out every time I go. I love the chocolate milk
with my lunch.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Back then,
I'll have it with the old cookies that were hot and off the tray, but not with my meal. So,
chocolate milks, man, was a hit.
They said that's still the core beverage. You get whiter chocolate. So, you gave us your whole thing of school lunch being underrated. So that's there. Mike, do you have an underrated?
Yeah, we do one here at our school that I think is so good, and I know other people like it, but it's not talked about nearly enough. I don't think people think of it. It's the popcorn chicken bowl. I mean, I think it's better than Kentucky Fried Chicken's version. So
that is a big favorite. That is a big favorite. My son, even if he has a lunch made, he still goes through the line and buys the popcorn chicken bowl.
Yeah, people don't think about that, but I think it's really good. It's always a hit, but people don't think of, when I think of school lunches, what I was going to give as overrated was actually Sloppy Joe's. Adam Sandler did a little bit on that. Sloppy Joe. But but nobody think with that popcorn chicken bowl, man. It's so good.
You know what? My kids are always packing their lunches, man. They don't appreciate a good school lunch, right? So,
I'm not gonna lie. Last year, my kid Nate took advantage because everyone was free last year. With the federal government was still covering all the school lunches, and it was the greatest year of my life because I'm like, he went and he'd make it work most days.
Yeah.
And all right, my underrated. Similar to yours, a little bit similar. It's every year around Thanksgiving and then right before Christmas, they have like the quasi holiday feast. So it's like the turkey.
Oh yeah.
It's like turkey meat all chopped up. You know what I'm talking about? You remember this? At the gravy, you'd get mashed potatoes, you
Cranberry
get stuffing.
sauce.
At Thanksgiving, you get like a paste. It was sweet potato pie. It was never real pumpkin pie, but it was
Yeah.
like this little wedge, little bit of whipped cream on it. Oh man, the holiday feast was so good. They do it at Thanksgiving. It was never the day before either, because it was always like too much work. So it was like an
Right.
odd day. It'd be like the Monday before
Yes.
Thanksgiving, or the.
And they always, they were always very stingy with the whipped cream too. I always noticed.
Oh yeah, that was the smallest dollop of whipped
I
cream.
just a
Yes,
little
I mean
teaser. What am I doing with this, man?
that I would have a chocolate. I'd have a chocolate milk with my little piece of pumpkin pie. But that's still. And again, it was never. But lately, Gibraltar. You know, I don't know if you got it this year. It used to be like all chopped up like turkey meat. Now
Yeah.
it's like these pieces of a white breast.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's like I'm feeling like, well, this is like a Stouffer's frozen dinner. Like, I got to talk him into having an
Hilarious.
Easter. I got to talk him into having an Easter one. Maybe we can get one in this week.
Yeah. It might be a little late notice, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll talk to
Oh,
Brian
wow.
tomorrow. So that's definitely underrated for school lunch. We'd love to hear what people think about school lunch. Did you have fountain pop at Kennedy back in the pre-Obama days?
I don't think we did.
We had it at
we had a school store. We buy it there.
in the high school, in middle school, straight lunch lines. There were fountain machines, just like you see at McDonald's or whatever. And you get a styrofoam cup, ice, and Dr. Pepper, cherry Coke, orange.
Yeah.
Hey,
Man, what a time to be
that,
alive.
man, that's that rich school district, man. We didn't have that. We ain't had that, man. We had a school store though, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
but no fountain drinks.
No fountain drinks. Yeah, that was always there. So, all right, we'd love to hear people's input on lunches. It's time for a hot mic take, sort of like anything you got for us this week. Do you have something for us, Ashley?
You know what? It's been trending. Yeah, this Angel Reese, right, was getting criticized for, I guess, her taunting
Oh yeah,
to
that was actually
Caitlin Clark,
really.
and the world is just up in arms about just she's a thug, or she is unsportsmanlike, right? And so I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that.
Didn't they find footage of her in the previous game, the Clark girl in the previous game, doing the same thing, doing the "you can't see me" like the same thing? And that's probably what led her
Exactly,
to. Yeah,
right?
no one that wasn't on the news at all a couple days ago. She
It
was the
wasn't.
poster child of women's college basketball. Yeah, I saw a lot of that. Mike, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean,
I think once that clip came out, people have started pulling back a little bit. I think
yes.
obviously because now they feel like idiots. But
I don't know how much of this is a vibe. I mean, certainly, I watched Stephen A. Smith talk about it today. I certainly think there's racial elements to it, but the other part is women, because this isn't, the Fab Five. Going back to that, that was kind of at the time. I think it was frowned upon, but it's sort of been viewed. They sort of become viewed in a positive light now, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think time has sort of been very kind to them, and the trash talk was accepted at that time, to the point where now when I watch it, man, I don't think it would be tolerated. I'm not saying it, I still think it's much more celebrated now, but I think that you watch that stuff now and it's like, man, I don't know if that would fly. Jalen Rose getting in guys' face like that, Jimmy King on a dunk, and like I just wonder how much of this is a gender thing. Like that it was a hell of a NCAA tournament for. Like, I looked at the ratings.
I agree.
Incredible.
Well, yeah, that was gonna be my point too. Like, not to say that this is the only reason. It was a very popular women's tournament this year. Like, and maybe part of it is because on the men's side, some of the blue bloods weren't around. So then all of a sudden, okay, we'll watch this. But it was good for women's basketball. People, again, they were talking about this before this even happened, and now you're talking, because what's sports, right? That's what everything is. Like, Steve, what's everyone talking? What's Colin and Cowher talking about the next day? So I mean, yes, they're talking about it. I think again, and of course, we've talked about this on numerous topics. People knee-jerk react to stuff, right?
Yeah.
People lost their mind last night, and then they don't realize that, wait a minute, there's been a lot of this stuff going on. And B, what she did was it really even that bad compared to some of the other stuff we've seen in other games? Like, in all reality, like, I mean, that we're getting that upset over what she did there. I mean, she was successful and won the game, and you know what? And then it turns out that, hey, this girl's doing the same thing. So listen, if you want to show off, you better be ready when you lose to understand that, shown up
exactly.
as well.
It could happen, right? Like I kind of feel like people who really don't understand the emotion behind sports, right, are the ones that are really complaining about it, right? Because when Caitlin had did it, in the Elite Eight, I didn't have any issues with it, right?
Yeah.
Because to me, that's part of the game, right? That's part of the adrenaline. That's part of the emotion. You know what I mean? After a big win, and so I applaud it, right? But when it happened, yesterday, man, it's like a huge deal, right?
I know. It's funny how that
Yeah,
happens. And then today I get up later, people are like replaying the clip from the Elite Eight, and now everyone's like, "Oh, wait a minute, I guess it isn't that." And like all of a sudden, people are crawling back into their holes.
Right.
Quick shocker that
yeah,
happens so often. So, but great
yeah.
topic to bring up. That was excellent. Right. By the
Uh,
way, unlike
Thank
last
you.
week when we were recording Thursday night, we're well ahead of the game here on
Yes.
Friday, April 3rd for our episode later this week on the 7th. So,
Okay.
all right, Mike, what do you got for your hot mic take?
All right, I want to ask you guys. So, I think we three of us getting up there. We're all in our 40s, a little bit up there in age, I suppose. But sounding young for I think our take on the game. I got to ask you guys a question. I got this. My nephew gets these NBA things, and I love NBA gear. Even though I was talking to your son and some others today about how NBA ratings are down. Especially in comparison to like the women's college basketball. But so I got this Brooklyn Nets, and it's okay to wear Brooklyn stuff now because Andre Drummond and so I got a nice Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if you can see this.
I see
But
that.
I didn't realize,
It's a lot of white.
yeah, on the
I
side
get
though,
nervous wearing white. Oh,
yeah. Is this so?
Look at that.
First off, Mike, you're ELA guy. You could probably explain this. Explain to the listener what you're looking at here. And I just want to ask you guys.
what's that have to do with English language arts? I can't. It looks like a color.
No, you're good at describing things.
Oh, well, if you're not watching on the YouTube channel, it's a white
Right.
jacket. It looks down the side like a multicolored, like down the sleeve. Is that the sleeve that I'm looking at?
No, it's right in the middle of the jacket. It's a stripe. Right.
But is it like under the armpit?
Yes.
Is it-
Yes.
Okay, this will get people to the YouTube channel, I guess. So underneath the armpit is just a multicolored, some bright, vibrant colors running down these
It
inseam,
doesn't
I guess.
fit with the color. It doesn't jive with the jacket, right? I mean,
No, but it's it's not like it's not overtaking the jacket. I mean, I
well,
wouldn't.
I guess my question is, I mean, look at this. It's everywhere. Am I too old? I'm giving it back. He's going to give me a Sacramento.
Giving it back from who? What?
My nephew. My nephew
Oh,
gets
okay.
He's an influencer, so he does these NBA.
Well, so are we.
Right.
Yes.
We don't get free stuff. He gets,
We're still waiting. We got a free logo from Aaron Torres.
don't tell Dr. Rice.
Yeah, don't tell Dr. Rice.
So
He is officially a doctor. Wait a minute, he is officially a doctor.
He is officially a doctor. So
But no free
I'm just
stuff.
like, what do you guys think? Is this? I'm giving it back. I made that decision. I get different reactions. I wore it once. I got different reactions from different people. Because you see, I wear plain stuff. Yeah, I have this Piston shirt on right now. What do you guys think?
With each
So, what's
passing
your
year.
question?
Go. He wants to know, is he too old to wear that?
Am I too old to wear this?
Are you too? No. I mean, you can. I mean, well, it depends on it depends what kind of case you got on. Why you wearing it?
Oh yeah.
I don't have.
Yeah, that.
My kicks are as loud as the rest of this.
You might have to talk to my sister at StockX and get some shoes that go along with those.
I love the jacket. I do. I love the jacket. But if you can find a nice pair of kicks, then you'll be sweet. You'll be smooth.
Okay. All right. So
With each passing year, I don't care. I'll wear anything. Who cares? Who are you trying to impress? Just wear it.
well, I'm giving it back, so it's too late for that. I made that.
You don't have to.
No, he likes it. I'm nervous. So
Okay.
Give me
You
your
must not like it
second.
that much. You tried giving it away.
No, I ordered it. When I ordered it, I didn't see that.
This is confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a poll. Pass the mic, fans. Can Mike keep that and wear it? I say yes. We have 2 yeses, 1 dependent on the shoes. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I like it. It's
Yeah, I like it too. It's sweet.
unique.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Okay.
All right. My hot mic take, and I hope I don't. I'm assuming this is how you pronounce this. I don't know. That's the Southern gas station. Is it Bucky's with the beaver or whatever? That's like this super giant gas station. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I heard about it today, actually.
Am I saying it right?
I don't.
If I'm not saying it right, I'm done. So whatever. Okay, so basically it's this giant, and I guess it's a thing in the South, all right? And it's basically a glorified for us downriver here, Gibraltar people, my old school pick pack or wow gas station. It is just this super gas. It's like a Meijer attached to a gas station, which by the way, that's what Meijer is. Meijer is attached to a gas station. But I see all these people coming back from spring break, having to make stops. Yes, the Pates. I saw you. I saw you there on the pictures. It's a gas. Like, listen, there's Rockwood has a 7-Eleven. It's right down the street. I can get salt and vinegar chip. I can get a slushy there. I don't need to make a stop down in southern Florida. There's people taking pictures with a beaver, a stuffed mascot. I need to know what the deal is. Why it's a gas station. I don't. It's a gas station with a super convenience store. I don't get it personally. And everyone that was typing stuff, it was packed. It was, shoulders to elbows everywhere. Well, why stop? Like, that would annoy me. And so I just want to know what the hype is about. I think the Pates weren't impressed with it based upon some of the comments I saw on Facebook, but have you seen some of the posts, Mike?
I've heard people talking about it. I haven't paid attention to the posts, but what I'm thinking is, what if we start our own trend on here? Like, we start going to places and trying to get people to follow us.
Hyped up places?
Yeah,
like a Dunkin' Donuts or like a normal place. And then my wife had the nerve, listen to this. A couple of years ago, we were on a road trip and we were driving through Kentucky. No, we were actually down in Savannah, but on the way down, we saw the original KFC was in Kentucky. And when my son and I are like, hey, we got to go to that and see the original Colonel Sanders, which, a little history lesson, was a roadside motel and gas station that he started selling chicken out of. And that was the rest is history. So we had to get up early in Savannah to be able to make it to this KFC. And we stopped there. My wife tried to compare their stop at this gas station to the original KFC, which I immediately shot down with a comment saying, you cannot compare a gas station with a stuffed beaver to a historical landmark where Colonel Sanders created probably the best chicken chain of all time. I was insulted by that.
Best chicken chain of all time. I mean, I just told you the school popcorn chicken was better than KFC.
Well, does the school popcorn chicken have 11 secret herbs and spices?
Well, all right, kids love KFC, by the way.
There you go. It's
absolutely love it.
Oh, speaking in a roundabout way to connect to something, my ban on Downriver and Friends expires on Wednesday because I criticized somebody complaining about mashed potatoes at Boston Market, which I didn't even know was still a thing. So
Boston Market's still open?
I guess it was, and I guess their mashed potatoes are not very good right now, but I was banned for commenting on calling the Attorney General for bad mashed potatoes. So what a great episode. Again, we sort of are like the Joe Rogan podcast. Our best episodes are with guests. We need to get a guest every week. Ashley, Terry, you were amazing. We love your insight. We hope people that listen to this that have kids going on to college, our high school kids that listen, take into account what you said. Like we said, in all honesty, if there's something that you would like answered that maybe we got you on the way, we'll definitely we'll pass along questions to Dr. Terry. I'm sure he'd love to answer. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we wrap up for the week?
No, I just appreciate you guys for having me on. Full transparency, this is my first time being on a podcast, and I've kind of been asked in the past, but you guys allowed me to have a space where I can speak about things I'm passionate about, which is education and sports. And so it was fun. I appreciate you both. And so, if any of you all have any questions about anything, please feel free to let me know.
All right, excellent. Speaking of sports, we normally wrap up. The Tigers and Pirates off to a great start. Tigers 0-3, Pirates 1-2. Will the Tigers have a win before they come back to play? I don't know. Are they playing today in Houston?
They're in Houston.
So they had to start with 3 in Tampa. We're embarrassed.
Yeah.
I think Illich is getting those new parking lots because there'll be a lot of cars going down there to watch games.
And I park down there too. It's going to be hell to pay.
Are they going to? The question is going to be, will they have a win by the time they get back to play Boston?
So I don't know how many.
Thursday. I think it's 3 games. I think it's 3 in Tampa, 3 in Houston. Right.
I'm going to say they get one this series. There'll be one.
Okay, so they'll get 1 in Houston.
Yeah.
Ashley, do you have a thought on that?
I'm gonna go with Gio because I don't watch baseball a lot, so we're gonna get 1.
Oh man, Ashley, we make fun of baseball a lot on here.
In all honesty, I put it on our Facebook page. I put opening day on, laid down on my couch up here in my loft. I had the best hour and a half nap of my life in a long time with that game on in the background.
What?
No run scored. I was like it was the perfect sleeping background. I couldn't beat it. I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. I'm going to say they're
Hopefully
going
it
to go.
changes, but they change the rules to speed the game up, and so
Yeah,
hopefully I'll that'll interest me some more.
Yeah,
Or some.
I slept through 5 innings instead of 3.
Wait, more importantly, San Diego State UConn.
Oh yeah, that's right. I guess definitely more importantly, I have no clue.
Oh,
No, I do
man.
have a clue. UConn has been playing lights out.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing the run they've gone on. I mean, they almost look like they should have been a 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah.
I agree. I would. Oh man, this is. I'm an underdog guy. I am. I love the underdog, and although UConn is a better team, I think I'm gonna go with the defense of the Aztecs.
I'm with you. I'm going Brian Dutcher.
Oh, wow.
Michigan system.
Well, finally, we'll be right one of these weeks because we've been awful so far this whole tournament with everything.
Fun fact:
So
Brian Dutcher's dad coached at EMU in the '60s.
Oh wow!
Coached at Eastern, did he? Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Nice.
Jim Dutcher. Yeah, I think from '68 to '72, I believe.
Awesome.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We got an eagle.
Look at that.
Another fellow eagle. All right. Well, again, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.